It's time for this week's UpLift. 3 ordinary guys that want you to find the freedom that is available by knowing our Lord Jesus Christ. So sit back and enjoy UpLift, brought to you by the Fulcrum Center. Visit our site.
So did you guys enjoy your week off? Or 2 weeks off?
2 weeks off.
Was it 2?
Or we had 3 weeks off.
See,
Wow.
that's what I'm like.
Oh my gosh, how long have we been gone?
It
So
went fast.
It's been a while.
And so many things are different.
Yeah, so many things are different.
Where are we? Do we even know what this program is? Well, hello everybody. I'm Phil Bliss,
I'm Ian Thornton.
I'm Chad McLeish.
and this is UpLift.
Thanks for joining us.
And we are here back for season 2. We've made some changes.
We have.
Some in the studio, as you can see. We took down the little arms.
Yeah.
They kept falling down, actually, but
We didn't want anybody
we got the
injured.
microphones on the table.
Yeah.
And I see something underneath our feet.
I know. Isn't that cool?
That is cool. We got carpet in our studio now.
Fantastic.
And we all have our fingers. We didn't lose any fingers in the process, cutting the carpet.
That's right.
Chad scared me a little bit running the knife, but
Yeah. That's why I stayed in the hall.
yeah.
Did I
But-
say that?
Yeah.
No, it was great. Really looks good. Sounds great.
Smells good.
It does. It does. It matches.
Yeah.
It's just, it's just really neat. Another step forward.
Yes, yes.
Another step forward.
And there's another very important thing that I need to let everybody know about.
Okay.
That is that in the past, for the podcast, now if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening on Fulcrum Radio, this
Yeah.
won't affect you.
Right.
But if you're listening on the podcast, we used to have UpLift and Bible Time together on the same channel.
Right.
We've separated them, and now UpLift is on its own channel. But if you want to, you need to subscribe to the UpLift channel.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you can search for UpLift, Fulcrum Radio, you'll find it.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, we're going to keep UpLift on the Bible Time channel for a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
just so people get
Right.
a chance to move over.
Yeah.
But it's on Google, it's on Apple, it's on Spotify, Intune, Pandora,
Yeah.
iHeartRadio, Stitcher, all of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
We put it out there on all of them.
Yeah, and that in itself could be its own show, just talking about how God has moved things
Oh,
and
yeah.
positioned things, and we even transitioned to our carrier.
Oh, yeah. Podbean. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're with Podbean, and that opens up this whole new several dimensions on what can be done with these podcasts and how God can just continue to just get the word out and encourage people and uplift people and empower people.
You and I had talked, Ian, and I know Chad was in on the conversation a little bit too, but we talked about not being hidden anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm really feeling that.
Yeah.
Because things like, a little bit at work and just, I'm getting emails from people. I got an email today. Someone wants UpLift to join what they call the Wisdom Podcast. And I'm still looking into it, but it looks like it's like a community thing where they put your podcast out to this community and then everybody comments on each other's podcast, and I think it's all faith-based. I think it is. I have to check it out, but it's called the Wisdom Podcast. So, it's just things like that I'm getting all these emails. Hey, we saw you have this podcast. So, God's getting us out there now.
Yeah, that's great.
And
Yeah, we're not hidden.
we're not hidden. Right.
Right.
Hidden in plain sight is what
Yeah.
we were before.
Yeah.
Organic growth.
Organic growth,
Right.
yes.
Right. It's important.
Yep.
Yeah. So
It's really
tonight,
good.
we don't really have a topic. We just thought we'd talk because we haven't talked for a few weeks.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, just whatever comes up, whatever's on your mind, let's just throw it out there. See
So
where it goes.
I've been cheating off of Ian here with the all things new in 22.
Okay.
I'm after Sunday, when that got introduced as a sermon, it's just been like boom, 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 boom. Things just started popping.
Yeah.
And it's just putting it out there in different ways, in different formats.
It really is, and it's funny because though that was a sermon, it's kind of like this last week.
Mhm.
It's like I'm seeing so many things,
Mm-hmm.
and it's neat too because we've been able to kind of ping back and forth on a couple of different things that God's been showing us and that kind of stuff. So that's been encouraging for us. But it is, and then I had a chance to take a few days and travel and just got back. And so, even in a different state, with a different group of people and talking with them, how God allowed that to resonate in their hearts. And they were able to they were starting to pick up and seeing and even remember to go, oh yeah, man, I remember this, and I remember seeing this is not the way it was, and so and so that we've been praying for, and they're seeing things differently. So the new mindset, the new shift, the new.
Definitely. And I'm glad you brought that up, because the new mindset, as I'm reading through the Old Testament, and I started on that really aggressive challenge,
Right.
and I'm over halfway through.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's been, and so far I have not missed a day. Praise God.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
But it can be challenging at times. But anyway, as I'm reading through the Old Testament, God's just putting on my mind how people, they didn't have the mindset that He wants them to have. And if they would just ask Him, He would give it.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that theme so much, and I'm in Isaiah right now, and God is just mocking people who are making these idols, and look, we got fire, we can make food.
Man.
Who created the fire? Who created the tree that grew in the field that you cut down to put on the fire to warm yourself and to cook your food? I'm like, I love this God, and I've read that before.
Yeah.
I've read Isaiah a few times, but just the way he's bringing it out and seeing that, and I'm thinking, this is part of the problem in our society today, is that people they have a different mindset of God than what He really wants us to have.
A relationship.
Thank you.
Oh man, there it is.
Stole the words from my mouth. A relationship, yes. And I got to tell you this story. There's a girl that I went to high school with. When I was writing the book, I put out, hey, if you want to read this, let me know and I'll send you a copy, advanced reader copies. So I sent her a copy and she never read it. Okay, but I told everybody that if you read the book, or if I gave you a copy of it, the manuscript form, I'll give you a copy of the book. Well, she never read the one I sent her, but I still honored that, and I sent her a copy of the book.
Yeah.
She read it in 2 days.
There you go.
And she said, I always just pray, but I never listened. And first she says, I wish God would speak to me the way that He speaks to Jake, the main character in the book. And I'm thinking, He will. But then she follows it up with, I pray, but I don't listen. I'm going to start listening and see what He has to say to me. I'm like, yes, yes.
That's fantastic.
Fantastic.
It is, man. That is so neat.
She is in store for quite a treat. And that's what I mean by the mindset.
Right.
That's what God wants.
Right. Yeah. And that's the relationship. I mean, it's like, I would not want to be a part of a relationship where I was talked to and never listened to.
Yeah. Right.
And so it is. It's opening up those things where people just get to just experience God, you know, and then Scripture says, taste and see.
Yeah.
That the Lord is good. And to get into that opportunity to sit with the Lord and listen to Him and understand all the things that He has to say about the one that He created, the one that He breathed life into. And they get to be a part of that relationship. It's really cool.
It is.
It is. It's really neat.
I remember years and years ago, I had a friend, well, God says this to me, and God says, and I'm like, how do you know that's God talking? And at that time, I knew things, these thoughts would come to mind and it would come to pass, and I didn't put that as God telling me.
Okay.
I didn't know how I knew that. I thought it was just some kind of weird thing that I had. It was some weird ability I never told anybody about. Never put two and two together that it was God talking to me, telling me. But when I realized that and I started listening, that's when things really took off for me. And that's when I really established a relationship with God, when I started listening. Yeah. So I'm saying that for everybody out there who's wondering, well, I hear Phil and Ian and Chad talk all the time about how God talks to them. I mean, you say it in your sermon a lot, and I say it at our Bible time a lot. He does, and He can for you too. It's nothing special. We're not unique in any way.
No,
we're just like all of you.
Yeah, and it's neat, Phil, when you said that, when you started listening. But it wasn't that you started listening. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it was realizing who was talking.
Yes. Yes.
And then, okay, I'm going to start listening. And it's great to hear you say that, because it really resounds with me. And it's like my journey with the Lord, though I accepted Him when I was about 8, I think in the 3rd grade, but it was just like, man, when I heard Him talking, and it connected in my brain that it was God speaking to me, man, it all changed.
Oh, yeah.
It all changed. So it is that relationship, and that speaking and that listening, and it makes all the difference in the world. It really does. It connects.
And, just way back when I first wanted to read the Bible all the way through, and I just said, God, where do I go? Where do I start?
Yeah.
Genesis or New Testament? The thought came into my mind, 1 Samuel. And what's the first part of 1 Samuel about? God speaking to Samuel, calling him, and Samuel thinks Eli's calling him.
Yeah.
And it's the Lord speaking to him.
That's great.
I'm like, that's awesome.
That's great.
So that's my story for tonight. I'll be quiet now.
I bet you won't. But it takes practice.
It does. It definitely does.
And it's okay to be confused about it. I mean, we all were.
Absolutely.
We're just guys. I mean, we struggled and we crawled before we walked, and we did all those things, and there was confusion, and there was all those sorts of things, especially when you're young. You said you were 8 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I was 16, and I had no idea what I was doing. And then I went through a long period of my time in my life where I really didn't know what I was doing. And I was trying to do the right thing, and I stumbled all the way through it.
Yep.
And that's okay, too.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. You just have to be okay with being not perfect in this. This is not about perfection.
It is.
Yes.
No, it's just about putting one foot in front of the other. When you get knocked down, you get back up. All those cliches, but really, it's like, don't put pressure on yourself to be be a perfectionist in your relationship with God. Each day is a new opportunity. Each situation that you encounter is a new opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's like, I look at it like, hey, we're going to walk through these difficulties whether or not we have God or not. Like, I'd rather just have God with me.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's, with that whole thing, Chad, what you're talking about as far as, it's not about perfection. It really isn't. And that's one of the things too. It's like even now, there's some things that I feel like God puts on my heart and He shares with me that I text you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, hey, am I hearing this right? Is there something that I'm missing?
Right,
Or,
right.
am I just losing it? So it's that accountability, and that it's that willingness, and it's the understanding that I'm not perfect at this.
Right.
And
Right,
then,
right.
it's like, okay, so you accept that, and there's a point of just dropping your pride off and going, no, I'm just going to work and walk together with those people that God has placed around me and He's blessed me with.
Mm-hmm.
And then to say, look, I'm not sure on this, and be willing to go, hey, what do you think? Or, what do you think? And stuff. And two, that's like, well, there you go. Who's wearing a team shirt? Right?
Right.
And it's like, and that's it. But see, you guys don't know this, but that's what that's about. It says #team. And so, there's this group of guys that God has brought together, and we are just journeying together. And we're willing to just put it out on the table, and we just got these T-shirts done to go, look, man, this is a reminder that, we're not alone, that we're going to fall, that we're going to have issues are going to come, just what you said, Chad. There's difficulties in life's journey. And so we're not alone. We do have the Lord, yes, and God has blessed us with teammates. And so that's why we wear these shirts, and it's just it's a visual reminder for us that we have these team members, and we can check with one another, we can check on one another. But if we're not hearing correctly or something that we have, God can, yes, please confirm with us, but at the same time, we got partners.
That's right. And you said at one time, Ian, you said, and I'll try to explain it for those listening on the podcast. It's a horizontal. You kind of slid your arm side to side. relationships with one another, like the
Yeah.
relationship we
Yeah,
have with
yeah.
one another here sitting at the table, the three of us. And then a vertical, straight up and down relationship with God.
Mhm.
We each have our relationship with God,
Yes.
but then we have a relationship, and that, if I may steal something from the book again, like if you think about it, it forms like a triangle, okay? And
Right.
what I put in the book, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, so if you haven't read the book and you want to read it, I don't remember, chapter 14, I think, or something like that, just maybe, no, it's actually probably a little bit later, but you're going to hear this again. But I've used this so many times. But
Yes. Yeah. And it's so effective.
in a marriage, think of about a triangle, okay, with a point at the top. In a marriage, and on the left side you got the husband, on the right side you got the wife. They have a relationship with one another. That's the bottom. They each have a relationship with God going up to the center, the point,
Mm-hmm.
on each side.
Yeah.
So when the relationship on the bottom starts to suffer, if it gets turned upside down, God is strong enough, think of an inverted triangle, to keep that balanced if that relationship is good between the husband and God and the wife and God. He'll keep that relationship strong. So too many times people in their marriages try to fix it themselves, or they say, I can't fix this.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's right.
And when you turn back to God, it gets fixed.
Yes, it does.
It gets fixed.
Yeah. It does. It really does.
And he changes your mindset so that you realize, and I mean when both people do that too. If it's not both people doing it, then if it's upside down, God is strong enough to hold on to it. Don't give up. Keep praying, because God won't force anybody to do anything, but he can show them things and lead them back.
Yeah. And too, if by chance, you're watching or you're listening to us and you're the mate that is submitting and is surrendering to the Lord, and your spouse is not, then you're able to discern what you need to be praying for concerning your spouse. And it's like, it's not your job to fix them and to make them listen. Right?
Right.
It's
Right,
like don't wrestle them to the ground and force
Right.
them into a relationship with God, because that's not going to last, is it?
No, it's not organic.
It is.
It's not organic, right?
It isn't.
I love that, Chad.
It isn't. It has to be so foundational, grassroots. That your spouse's seed, if you will, has to be, its roots has to go into the good soil, and that's Christ.
Absolutely.
That's Christ.
And we've talked about one thing that I love, and over the past few months, that God just has reassured me of this so many times. That He works in cycles. It's planting seasons,
Isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, so you talked about the seeds in the soil, and there's a patience, and it's frustrating. I mean, we've all had to walk through this before, where we've had to be patient with relationships or situations or whatever. And you have to plant the seeds, which is in prayer. So you have to get your faith, you got to make sure your faith is tight, relationship is tight with the Lord, plant your seeds, and then just be patient and just continue to water the seeds with prayer and in that relationship, and just give it time. And that's difficult, let's be real.
It is hard.
Let's be real. That's just difficult.
It is difficult.
Especially in a instant society. Just add water.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Miracle Grow.
Yeah.
Chia Pet.
Chia Pet.
You're a pet. Your marriage is not a chia pet.
It is not a chia pet.
It's an inverted triangle.
That's right.
Our triangles have all been upside down. Let's be let's
They
just
have.
face reality.
Oh my gracious.
And it's okay. I mean, it's not okay at the time, but I mean, like, we've all been there. Like, there's not like any perfect marriage. I mean,
Right.
But you just, it's that patience, it's that relationship, and it's walking through those situations and those difficulties to turn it around. It's not going to happen overnight.
It isn't. And during those times, isn't it just an amazing faith builder? After things come to fruition, and as you see the seed, it breaks through the soil, and all of a sudden it's like, man, I've had, my faith is real, and that is something that a lot of people, honestly, they haven't experienced.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't experienced their faith become tangible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
but once it does, then I've experienced breakthrough,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, so this is faith, and sometimes faith takes that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so patience and faith work together, trusting God's promises
Mm-hmm.
are true, and then you see it. And it's almost like you never forget that first day you see it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can always, that's a point you can always go back to.
Mm-hmm.
You can always go back to, because, God is faithful, He is true.
I remember the first garden I planted. I planted carrots in one row, green beans in another row, and potatoes in another row. And you know what I saw? I kept
Rabbits.
checking every day. I saw rabbits. Yes. I kept checking every day. In the middle row, the green beans, man, they sprouted up like in a couple days, okay? And they're growing, and I'm looking, not seeing anything on the other side. I see tiny little plants start to pop up for the potatoes, okay? But they're small, like real close to the ground. Still see nothing with the carrots. And I waited and waited. Green beans are growing. I got to put poles in. They're growing real well. Finally, one day I remember, and I look down, and I start to see the tops of the carrots. Okay? So I'm excited. Carrots are growing, right?
Yeah.
Potatoes look the same. They're just these little green flowers like things on the ground. But when it came time to pull them all, eat the green beans, pull the carrots out, they were huge.
Mm-hmm.
They were huge.
Yeah.
Very small
Yeah.
on top, but
That's
they were
good.
huge underneath.
Yeah.
And the potatoes were so numerous.
Really?
It was
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I had just a couple potatoes because I saw a couple little green plants, but they were everywhere under the ground.
Yep.
So just because those green beans, those people that you see that, oh, look at the faith they have, and they're waving their hands and praising God in church, and I wish I could be like that. You might be growing underneath the surface.
Yeah.
And
Well,
God is growing
That's
you.
good.
Yeah. And another thing too that I keep thinking about is, like when I was young, I used to watch those TV programs, those televangelists on TV and stuff. And it was all very polished, like
Mhm.
everything was just perfect. And it was intimidating, okay?
Oh, yeah.
It was very intimidating because I'm thinking like, wow, like they're perfect. They don't miss move. Everything's perfect. They live this perfect life. And I can tell you that is not reality. And it's okay. And we need to realize that. And, as Christians, we need to talk about this and be real. Your pastor isn't perfect, and they don't live a perfect life, and that's okay. They're humans, and they're no better than you. They're no better than anybody. They're walking the walk that you're walking, but that's what Christianity is about. It's raw at points.
It is.
It really is.
It really is.
And it's all these things that we're talking about, but that you cannot be intimidated by perceived perfection. You have to really just understand that televangelist you see on TV has nothing on you. Your relationship with God is just as important than that
right.
person's relationship
Absolutely.
with the Lord.
That's right.
And they've walked the walk too. It's just because they look perfect and everything looks perfect and it's very polished presentation. That's not reality. And it's okay. Being a Christian is living your life, having your relationship.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible calls Jesus
That's
a
good.
redeemer,
Mm-hmm.
not a perfecter.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't make your life perfect. He redeems your life. It's broken,
Mm-hmm.
but he redeems it. He brings it back
Mm-hmm.
to give it some sense and sensibility. And there's still going to be problems,
Mm-hmm.
but he's
Yeah.
redeemed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just
He didn't perfect it.
Yeah, and the attacks and all of that stuff. I mean, it's just like the enemy has come to steal, kill, and destroy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And oftentimes there's this perfect picture painted. Going back to what you were talking about, Chad, and it's like, yeah, well, you know what, man, the devil didn't get me today, and da 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 da, and and I'm just like, dude, I'm still stitching myself up from yesterday.
Yeah.
And I and at points you understand and we realize, we let those things happen and there's a renewal that's taking place and a newness and God is building us and He's growing us. But the process, it isn't always pretty.
Mm-hmm.
It just isn't. And so, we could sit here and go, okay, well, man, let's compare scars.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've been through the wars, and there's more coming. But it's that trust, it's that patience, it's the faith and understanding that what God has shared with us in His Word is real, that it is trustworthy, and He's for us. He's not going, all right, guys, you're out there in the ring by yourself.
Right.
That's not Him.
Right.
That's not Him. He is with us. He's with us in what we're doing and what we're fighting against.
Yeah. You know what, guys? It was a great first night back. We're out of time. Can you believe that?
Oh, my word.
I know. Every time we want God to just slow, He stopped the sun for Joshua.
Yeah, He did.
Why wouldn't He give us an extra little bit of time?
It's really neat. And I know it's like, every time we finish up wrapping up a show, we're like, really?
Yeah.
But it really is that. I mean, it's just to be able to be in flow and, and to be able to work together and let God do what He's going to do is always a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it'd be neat to get feedback from our listeners, whoever listens, to see if a half an hour or a 1 hour segment, what works for people.
That's a great idea.
Because a lot of people just like a quick half an hour, as they're whatever they're doing in their routine, as they're walking or jogging or whatever they're doing. And does an hour make sense? Does a half an hour make sense? So the feedback.
Or 45 minutes.
Yeah, whatever. Or just as long as we want to go.
Right.
That feedback would be cool.
It really would.
Yeah, please give us some feedback. Yeah. You can email us, phil@thefulcrumcenter.org, ian@thefulcrumcenter.org, and cmcleish1@gmail.com.
Yeah.
That's the best way to get us, or you can find us on Facebook. Ian's phone number is 555. There's many ways to get a hold of us.
There is.
You can go to Podbean and find our podcast, and you can leave a message up there as well. You can leave feedback there.
You sure can.
So there's many ways to get in touch with us. Comment on Facebook or on YouTube.
Yeah.
Any topic ideas that you'd like us
to... I was going to say the same thing. You're exactly right.
Yeah, please
anything
let
that's
us know.
on your heart, on your mind, or something that you would just, you'd like to hear us discuss and talk about. Please send it in. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. It would be great.
It would be. Absolutely.
So we're back on track now for several weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Unless something comes up. And, you always have at least one of us here, and maybe all three of us, and sometimes maybe only two of us, but we'll be here.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So thanks for joining us tonight. It was great to be a part of this. We're glad to be back, and hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for letting us spend some time with you.
All right, we'll talk to you guys all again real soon.
God bless.
Have a good week.